Hey everybody, welcome to Advancement Live. My name is Ryan Catherwood, coming to you live from the grounds of the beautiful University of Virginia here in Charlottesville, Virginia. And I do mean beautiful today. I was just over in the gardens of the Jefferson's Academical Village, and man, this is a special time of year, springtime at the University of Virginia. But we're not here to talk about UVA today. We're here to talk about topics related to the world of advancement. Advancement Live is part of the Higher Ed Live Network, a series of professional development web shows and podcasts, and they are always free and accessible to you. You can find them through the archives on higheredlive.com. You can find them by way of podcast through iTunes. You can get a newsletter delivered to you, to your email inbox that has all of the most recent blog posts on higheredlive.com, as well as upcoming shows. And of course, I would be very appreciative if during the course of today's broadcast, you would use the hashtag HigherEdLive and make sure to ask questions today with myself and my guest, Kathy Kale, who is reporting to us live from beautiful, not today so beautiful, but beautiful in general, Santa Clara University out in California. How's it going, Kathy?
It's going well. Thank you for having us. And it's always a beautiful day at Santa Clara.
Always a beautiful day at Santa Clara. Before we get started with Kathy and talking some digital engagement strategy, I do want to first introduce our sponsors for Advancement Live. Advancement Live is brought to you by iModules Software, which is a leading constituent engagement management provider for educational institutions. iModules delivers an integrated online platform transforming how institutions strengthen constituent relationships and achieve fundraising success. And of course, Advancement Live would not be without the good folks at M. Stoner. Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner, a marketing and communications firm that works with educational institutions on branding, strategy, web design, and more. Data from Ruffalo Noel Levitz and EduVentures shows us that degree listings and pages are critically important marketing content on university websites. But how do you get more people to those pages? M. Stoner's next webinar will focus on improving traffic to degree pages through different techniques and examples. And I queued up a tweet to go out so you can learn how to register for that event. Okay. I am going to on-screen share to bring myself and Kathy back. And we can get right started talking about one of the coolest websites that I have come across in a very long time. Kathy, we're of course talking about Illuminate. And I did queue up a tweet to go out, I think in just a minute or two, that talks about Illuminate. But for the folks out there who are being introduced to it for the first time, could you talk a little bit about how you went through conceptualizing the new site and where the idea for Illuminate came from?
Well, thank you for the compliment. And again, thank you for having us. And it was almost 2 years ago that I was sitting at a conference listening to Charlene Lee, who's the founder of Altimeter Group. And she was talking about how universities should really focus on scaling the wisdom of their alumni. I thought that was just such a fascinating thing to say. And as I was sitting there thinking about it, I had this flash in my mind of LinkedIn Pulse. And after that flash in my mind, I thought, why don't we do something like LinkedIn Pulse, but customize it for Santa Clara and do something for the Santa Clara community by the Santa Clara community? And once that idea popped into my brain, I just knew we had to do it.
I think that that's a fantastic idea. And, I think a lot of us spend more and more time engaged with LinkedIn as one of our primary tools to make connections and to discover really interesting people who are part of our network. I've queued up a slide here, Kathy. Can you talk a little bit about when you were pitching the idea of Illuminate to other folks at Santa Clara? What were some of the responses like, and how did you eventually sell the idea of Illuminate to the folks there at the university? And I'll queue up a little slide here.
Well, we cared about this idea deeply, and we really wanted to get it right. So we spent a lot of time upfront developing the concept before we did anything else. And we did a ton of research and brainstorming. And then really, before we started building anything, we forced ourselves to develop a marketing brief, which really helped us clarify our target audience, our purpose, our key messages, desired outcomes, timeline, and success measurements. So once we had done that, the hard work was done, and we were able to come up with the identifier, which you can see here on the slide, is Illuminate, Bright Ideas from SCU Thought Leaders. And we loved it, and from there we were able to start to build out the site. So the way we rolled it out is we started with the thought leaders that we wanted to have included in the initial cohort. And that included 12 thought leaders. That's the number we thought we could start with. And we developed some initial guidelines for the thought leaders and also a content creation form. And then we went to sell them on the concept and asked them to participate. And the good news was we got an enthusiastic response from all 12. All 12 said yes. And there was just real excitement and willingness to participate in something that didn't yet exist. So the first way we pitched it was to get the thought leaders on board.
Yeah, and I think that that's the idea of identifying folks around your university who really have kind of profound voices in the space or in their own spaces, whether they are folks attached to the university through being on the faculty, or whether they are alums and are professionals amongst the network. There's some amazing people out there that are, of course, a part of our networks. So how did you go about locating the right thought leaders for Illuminate? And what was the criteria? How did you go through, what was your selection process like?
Well, first and foremost, we wanted to make sure we had content diversity across the site. And that diversity was based on area of expertise. We really wanted a mix of faculty, staff, alumni. We wanted to make sure we had diverse topics, that many ages were represented, as well as voices and perspectives. So once we knew that, then we created a really big list of potential thought leaders based on people we knew, people that we knew were active in the media and online, or that we thought, to your point, that would just have would add an interesting voice to the site. So from that big list, we narrowed it down to the initial 12 based on where we had pre-existing relationships, because we knew a warm sales call would be more effective than a cold call. And we wanted to make sure that the thought leaders had the diversity we were striving for. So we went from a big list to a small list based on diversity and who we knew.
Yeah, and could you highlight for folks, you know, a couple of your thought leaders, and you know, maybe one or two that sort of really stand out as ones that you sort of honed in on from the beginning?
Well, I'd love to talk about all 12. We have several folks from the business school. Tanya up there on the top corner is also an alum, but works in the business school. Eric Goldman is from the law school. Terry Griffith, also from the business school. Kirk Hansen is our head of our ethics center here on campus. Phil Keston is our physics nerd, as you can see. We also have a robotics Jedi from the engineering school, and Christopher Kitts. So that's primarily faculty. And then we have Jill from the Career Center to help our alums who might be looking for some specific advice around that area. Dane Kreiner is the head of our Center for Science, Technology, and Society, and really is focused on global social benefit. And then Micah May is a young alum who we knew was an avid blogger, and we just knew would be a great voice to add to this and a different perspective altogether. And she's been one of our more popular thought leaders. And then down at the bottom, Tom Plant is a psychologist who has great perspective on many topics. We're a Jesuit Catholic institution, so Father Rewalk is our chancellor. He's also a poet and a beautiful writer, very thought-provoking. And then, interestingly, we added Jerry Smith, our women's soccer coach. Our women's soccer team is nationally ranked every year. We've won a national championship, and Jerry is one of the eminent leaders in the field of athletics, and he is also provided just some amazing content and perspective on leadership to the site.
Fantastic. And I imagine, of course, that there's lots of great folks that, by nature of sort of containing this whole thing, are not in that 12. And so I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit further about future plans for the site. But really great group of thought leaders made up of both faculty as well as other folks in your connected to the university. In building Illuminate, you of course, well, not necessarily of course, but you worked with an agency partner to help you construct it. And what was it like to work with your agency partner, and sort of how did you describe the vision for Illuminate when you met with them?
Well, as I mentioned, we did a lot of upfront research, and we spent a lot of time looking at other sites and online properties. And there are a lot of really cool websites out there. And from that research and just constantly looking and trying to figure out what we liked, we defined really some of the key criteria as being, we wanted the site to look modern, we wanted it to be easily shareable, and we definitely wanted it to be image driven. That was probably the biggest thing. In addition, of course, to having just amazing content. We also wanted to brand the program differently from anything else at Santa Clara. We wanted a unique brand for the program. So to get started, we did hire an outside designer. It wasn't an agency, it was an individual designer to help bring the vision to life, because we weren't quite sure what we wanted. So we went through all the research and all the things, and he helped create a mock-up and a proof of concept. And then ultimately in the end, our campus designers helped bring it all together and give it that final Santa Clara look. So we had a few hands a few cooks in the kitchen, but as you can see, the result is amazing, and we're just thrilled.
That's great. And I think, cooks in the kitchen that made up are both of sort of an independent design mind, as well as the good folks in your communications office, collaborated well to create the current look and feel of Illuminate. When you were thinking about strategy as far as content publishing for Illuminate, what were some of the things that you were considering as you were developing the site? How are you going to manage a content calendar? How is content going to be published? That sort of thing. What was the thinking going into it?
Well, this is really at the heart of Illuminate, because it really doesn't matter how great the site looks. If the content isn't good, then it's not going to be successful. So as I mentioned, we did our research, put together some guidelines for the thought leaders and a submission form to make it as easy as possible for them to get us the content. And then we asked each of those thought leaders to make a one-year commitment to the program and do an article every other month. So a total of 6 articles for them in that first year. And that really started to drive a very extensive content calendar, which tracks submissions, reminders, editorial dates, when we're publishing both on the web and social, and all of our marketing efforts. So you can imagine it's quite large, but we use it to balance not only the timing of the articles, but subject matters, to making sure that we're keeping diverse topics in balance over the course of any particular month.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you guys leave full creative? Do you suggest topics? I should ask to your thought leaders, or is it sort of carte blanche for them to do whatever they'd like?
Well, we do leave it up to them initially, but we have found, and we're about 5 months into the process now, that we have had some conversations with the thought leaders about ideas, and it's been a beautiful partnership with all the thought leaders, and it's really driven by either their expertise and a desire to speak on a particular topic, or what we think would be timely for our readers. So it's been a great marriage, and it happens both ways.
Great. And I think that, one of the biggest questions when you are bringing to life a site like this one is, is what feedback are you going to get, and what feedback are you going to get from your internal audience? Obviously, there's a lot of folks around Santa Clara that are probably intrigued, had emotions one way or the other about Illuminate. What's been the feedback so far, and perhaps what was the reaction after you rolled out the site?
Yes, well, we rolled out Illuminate across campus to about 30 different departments and various groups. So 30 different meetings and presentations and all. And I would say, hands down, very enthusiastic response to it, because they feel like it's valuable and meaningful. And people are happy to see the thought leadership that's going on around campus. I think for faculty and staff, they don't always have visibility to the many good works going on around campus. So for them, they get to see other cool things that other departments and people are doing. I think, though, for our alums, it's really instilling pride knowing that Santa Clara faculty and staff and even their fellow alumni are contributing content that's meaningful to their lives. And so a lot of the feedback from alums is like, wow, I continue to be so proud of Santa Clara because of all the really cool things that are going on. And I think it's helped us generate a future pipeline of thought leaders, because people are really interested in joining or have suggestions for us. And so it's helped to sustain itself. I'd also say some of our thought leaders, sorry, just real quickly.
No, please.
Some of our thought leaders are also getting feedback, particularly on their articles, not only through the comments that they have, but through individual connections. So our psychology professor has gotten a consulting opportunity, our business professor a speaking engagement, and our career counselor has really seen a spike in alumni reaching out, wanting to get support and have individual meetings. And so I think we're really seeing true engagement from the content that's being posted. So overall, anecdotally and via our metrics, very, very positive.
That's great. And of course, a lot of this, is about sort of success stories, right? And I think that as you are able to tell more and more about how Illuminate and the thought leadership on it was able to create different types of success stories, whether they're personal ones or professional ones, and it sort of really infuses the idea of the value of thought leadership into our repertoire, I should say, as engagement professionals. I think we've only just begun to think about how to use digital engagement in ways like you're doing to really create a stronger alumni network or a stronger constituent network, even though constituent's not the greatest word in the world. And so, of course, all of this is about, or I should say, requires a social media strategy. What were some of the considerations that you guys put together as far as developing a social media strategy for Illuminate? And does content from Illuminate get shared alongside other alumni-related content, or how does that work?
Well, we spent a lot of time thinking about how we were going to launch the idea, and we did settle on, a website. So we do publish to the website first, but on the very same day and after we publish on the web, we also publish on Facebook, our LinkedIn group, and Twitter. And then we let our thought leaders know when their particular article has gone live so they can share it through their distribution channels. And if the thought leader works on campus, then we let that particular department or group know so they can share their article via their departmental communications. And then finally, we promote individual posts in our monthly All Alumni e-newsletter. So we have a very strong social component to support the website itself.
Great. I saw a question come up through Twitter, which is fantastic. Thanks, Matthew, for submitting it. The question for you, Kathy, is, have you considered emerging thought leaders from the student population to sort of make a stronger connection with that particular demographic?
Absolutely. When I get to what the future holds for Illuminate, one of the things we're definitely exploring is just exactly that. We're calling them future thought leaders and wanting to introduce a few student voices to the site. So that is definitely part of phase 2.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's talk about one of the more important parts of all of this, and that is, of course, KPI, right? Is this working? What are the key performance indicators associated with Illuminate? As you talk through them, Kathy, I'll share the monthly metrics slide that you sent me, okay?
Great. Well, this is actually my favorite part since we can actually measure success. I can't always say that about everything we do in alumni relations, but certainly here it's been great to be able to see some of the data. And starting with the web, since that's where we publish first, the average time on each article is 3 minutes. And that just blew us away because I think the average time on any web page is seconds. And so the fact that people are spending minutes reading every article just let us know that we were onto something. We also track our page views, overall site traffic. We track the page views of individual articles. And we also track sentiment by paying attention to the comments that are both on the web and on social, be they positive, negative, or neutral. For social, obviously, we're tracking the bit.ly links that we include in the posts. And on Facebook, we're looking at reach, likes, shares, and comments. You can see some of these on the slide. For Twitter, it's retweets, favorites, and we just started tracking impressions and engagement. And for LinkedIn, it's comments and likes. Against ourselves every month to see the growth month after month, and we're also comparing ourselves to other blogs and web pages around campus. So wanting to make sure that we're having growth and to do what we can to make sure that we continue to see that growth. And then we're creating a monthly measurement report. You can see a portion of that on your screen. We send that to the thought leaders each month. We review it internally, and then if it's appropriate, we'll send the individual thought leaders performance measurements on just their articles. And that's been really helpful to talk through with them.
And I'd like to just offer a compliment to the person on your team who designed this awesome infographic. This is really cool.
Well, if I could, I'd like to get a little quick shout out to Melissa Brotherton and Megan Bradley, who work with me here in the university in the alumni office, and their extraordinary work to bring this whole program to life. It's been the three of us, and it's just been a great journey, but it wouldn't happen without the two of them too.
Very cool. Great design goes a long way. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the future of Illuminate. We talked a little bit about the possibility of adding students to the mix. Is this part of a broader engagement strategy that you guys have in place, the idea of thought leadership, or how do you view the future of Illuminate?
Well, Ryan, the future of Illuminate is bright.
Yes.
I know, and we are getting ready to scale a bit. By June, we hope to announce 3 additional thought leaders. And we're also hoping to launch an email subscription feature. Right now, people need to be driven to the site to see any particular article. But hopefully by June, we'll be able to sign up to receive a bi-weekly email that's a summary of the latest articles and a few site modifications to enhance navigation. So we're looking forward to all that in June. We're also working on enhancing our marketing materials because it's really up to us to get the word out. So we know we need to do a little bit more work in that area. And then to the point we made, we want to test the concept of future thought leaders by getting some students involved. So all that's coming down the road. But I think it's really important for me to say to you and everybody here that this idea was born in Alumni Relations because we had the idea and we really just had the burning desire to see it come to fruition. But the goal was always to serve the entire university. And Santa Clara, as a university, is embarking on a larger digital strategy to raise our national visibility. And we're super excited that Illuminate is going to be part of that.
Yeah, I would hope so. I think it is a very, very forward-thinking website with a lot of great stuff going on as far as driving content to your site, the future opportunities that exist as far as having a selected people selecting to receive the content and so that they can share it out to their social networks. And of course, continuing to grow the group of contributors that you have. Are you thinking about strictly growing? Or are you thinking about changing or always keeping 12 or so, or a smaller number, but switching people in and out? Or do you imagine it being a largely growth as far as the particular contributors?
Yeah, great question. And I think we are learning as we go in many areas, and that's going to be one. I think that the first 3 that we add will be additional. And most of the thought leaders that we currently have want to stay on past their year commitment, which I think is a great testament to the benefit they see out of participating in something like this. But I don't know how many is too many or how few is too few. So we're going to experiment with that. And I think a lot of it depends on what we can handle internally with the resources we have. But we'll push those boundaries, and I think we'll come to learn what the happy balance is and optimize it from there.
Very good. Well, Kathy, Kale, thank you so much for joining me today on Advancement Live. It was a pleasure to have you. You're welcome, of course, to stay on the Hangout and talk a little bit about a similar site concept that we have here at the University of Virginia called HoosNetwork. Or if you have important things. I know you said you actually have a major event coming up on a Saturday night that you're preparing for.
Well, I do, and it's always great to learn what's going on in our profession. So I'd love to hang out, and I just want to thank you again for including us, and go Broncos.
Go Broncos. All right, well, thank you so much. That was great to have Kathy on, and a really exciting time, I think, to be in the world of digital engagement or alumni relations and working to infuse digital engagement concepts into our workflow. One of the things that we've been working on here at the University of Virginia is a site concept called HoosNetwork. It's part of the overarching alumni site, so it is part of alumni.virginia.edu. And it is a similar concept to the Illuminate concept in that it is based largely around concepts of thought leadership. But what the site also is about is more crowdsourcing of content. So less us asking individual thought leaders for their content, and more about finding out who would be interested out in the entire population of alumni, parents, and friends. And we even have some student contributors that are providing content for the site. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll show the site. But one of the things I just wanted to mention as you're looking at it for the first time is to be thinking about the idea of an alumni networking event. Imagine yourself at an event and you have your cocktail in hand and you are circulating from different group to different group. And you, after a few conversations, you sort of take stock of the conversations that you just had. And perhaps, maybe there was one that was about a shared experience with a faculty member, and perhaps another was about a trip you're about to go on, and someone had given you advice about traveling in Europe. Or maybe it's about parenting. You have a couple small kids, an alum that you have interacted with has a couple of small kids, and you've discussed some of the tricks for getting some sleep at night. But I think the idea of HoosNetwork is to sort of offer this look into the alumni network or alumni events through a digital, through a website, and sort of try to replicate those conversations. From a philosophical framework, it's kind of this idea of lifelong learning. So ideas of academic exploration, professional development, and alumni network advice. If you guys, I hope everyone out there would take a look at the post I put up on higheredlive.com and let me know what you think about the idea. I would love to have your thoughts. So let's go ahead and take a look at HoosNetwork. Very proud of it. It is definitely a few years in the works. And the site itself is, as I mentioned, it's part of the overall alumni site. So here is the homepage, the Alumni Parents and Friends website. It took a couple of years to eventually be Alumni Parents and Friends website, as opposed to just the alumni website. But it is the infusion of university advancement as well as alumni association programs. HoosNetwork content flows in here to this particular post spot on the alumni homepage, and posts can individually be added, linked here to the site. HoosNetwork is part of the News and Views dropdown, and it is very much, it has a similar look to Illuminate, right? It has sort of that tiled, cascading, Huffington Post meets Pinterest sort of look, which is, all the rage these days. And each post is hand curated, hand published. And since the beginning of the site, about 2 months ago, I used the University of Virginia Alumni LinkedIn group and sent an announcement out to folks inside the group asking for writers. And over 100 alumni volunteered, threw up their hands immediately and said, sure, I'd like to help. And over the last 2 months, we've posted over 70 alumni supplied articles, roughly between 400 and 700 words. This particular content is curated, and one of the other major priorities of HoosNetwork is to use it as a digital fundraising tool. So you'll notice that Rose here is a graduate of the McIntire School of Commerce. And here on the post itself, we have deployed fundraising messages for the McIntire School of Commerce. So it is unquestionably tying content to fundraising priorities, not just here for pan-university priorities at university advancement, but also because we are sort of a center that is being funded by the schools and units at UVA. We are trying to provide a service, a digital engagement service for our schools and units. Content on HoosNetwork is also collected through about 40 or 50 volunteer alumni bloggers. These are folks who I found through LinkedIn who said, sure, we'd be happy to let you take content for our site. Here's an example, 4 tips for a healthier you. This alum is a graduate of Arts and Sciences, class of '02, and she writes a blog called Veggie Quest, which is priority about vegan and healthy eating and lifestyle. But this is about sending traffic to the websites of our alums if they're looking for more information or looking to read further. But we have a partnership, sort of a symbiotic relationship with our bloggers, such that they're allowing us to take some of their content, deploy our advertising sequences, and also try to drive traffic to their sites. And there wasn't any, when I asked alums if this would be okay, there wasn't any blogger who said no. But it did take, sort of the initial work to go and find all of these alumni bloggers that are out there. Here's another post. A woman up in Boston is a pretty prolific fashion blogger, and she regularly posts outfits. And this is the sort of content that, hey, let's think about that alumni event again. And the conversations that were happening, hey, I like your outfit. Hey, where did you get it from? So these are the different types of conversations you might have at an alumni networking event. Mixed in photos from our regional engagement events, as well as some of the advertisements for our other priorities around the university. So mixed in here are advertisements on the homepage as well as articles. Here's another example of the type of content that is volunteered. This article is from an entrepreneur who owns her own clothing boutique outside of Annapolis, Maryland, and she wrote about what it's like to own that. So there are, of course, connected social media accounts to HoosNetwork. But what this is largely powered by is digital ambassadors. So I know a lot of folks are thinking about the idea of digital ambassadors and how they can be an important part of the Give Day experience, right? So we're all trying to think about people when we're trying to raise money one time a year about, hey, will you share content related to Give Day? Well, in this idea, we're trying to think about digital fundraising and digital engagement every day, or at least once a week, because all of the bloggers, all of the contributors, and a large population of over 100 digital ambassadors are now volunteering to receive a weekly digest email of the most popular posts. And these posts are then shared out through individual social networks. I wanted to show you a couple of stats, or just talk about them. One of the things that's interesting to try to figure out is, okay, so we're thinking about content marketing here and digital engagement as a way to raise money now every day, not just one day a year. And one of the things that we're trying to think about is how much traffic do you need on the website in order to have one click on an ad? And so for the last couple of months, we've been working to determine the number of clicks or the number of sessions that have to occur on HoosNetwork in order to drive one click on an ad. And all of our ads are tied to appeal codes. So we can track real traffic to those giving sites and break it down by those 3 different ads that are attached to a post. So we know that it takes about 6 or 7 thousand visits to HoosNetwork each month. About 20% of the overall alumni site traffic is to HoosNetwork, and it takes about 100 site visits to get one click on an ad. So if you let that sit in for a while, it shows you that there is definitely an opportunity for all of us out there to be creating content that ties with our fundraising initiatives and be tracking how we can drive traffic to those sites, or to those giving sites. And it's just, I think, about a big part of not only how we can provide a service across the university, but how we can, as engagement pros and fundraisers, be looking to sort of help us reach those particular goals. The future, I did have a question from Kevin. Yes, so HoosNetwork is built, the question was, is it built on what is the platform it was built on? And HoosNetwork is a WordPress-based platform. I'll go ahead and log in here so you guys can see the back end. and I'll screen share it, but it's based in WordPress. Our whole alumni site is based in WordPress. And here I will show you the back end of the dashboard, because I think that what's cool is taking a look at how we've deployed these fundraising ad sequences. So when I click on fundraising ads, we've got different ad sequences, 3 ads per sequence, attached to a number of different university priorities. They're not all fundraising priorities. Some of them are engagement related initiatives. So that's up to our partners around the university to decide whether or not they'd like to use their ads to promote an engagement initiative or a fundraising initiative. So for instance, the McIntyre School here has 3 ads, and they're connected here in these content blocks. But as you can see, they're actually connected to an individual appeal code. So we're able to determine, how often people are being driven to the McIntyre School of Commerce giving site from the HoosNetwork content management system. But I thought that's kind of a cool feature. And of course, when you put a post into the admin, we are able to, here in the sidebar, add a category to it. But also here in the bottom section, here's where we're able to select which of the fundraising ad sequences are connected to any individual post. And of course, since this graduate went to the McIntyre School of Commerce, that's the one that we've deployed. So the idea is, as closely as possible, we're trying to make it so content is connected to fundraising. So for instance, this morning I was just over in the gardens of the University of Virginia and took some pictures, and we'll try to attach that gallery up on HoosNetwork and assign in the Jeffersonian Grounds Initiative fundraising priority to that content. When there's articles of or about faculty, to tie it to the Faculty Excellence Fundraising Initiative. So it's definitely an opportunity, I think, to thinking about digital engagement as also part of an ongoing digital fundraising effort, and an opportunity to reach out to folks individually and then drive traffic from our social media platforms. We have noticed that paying $5 a day to boost a post on Facebook is a worthwhile endeavor. I do think that as we're building sort of alumni or advancement specific social media accounts, even if it's tied to this sort of content, that there's going to be a need to dedicate some funds to boosting posts, particularly on Facebook. This sort of thought leadership also works great for the University of Virginia LinkedIn page. The content definitely fits with the sort of stuff you might be reading on LinkedIn Pulse, only this time it's just from University of Virginia constituents. And so in many respects, it models what Kathy has done at Santa Clara with Illuminate, but also added a couple elements, and it's thinking about volume, right? Because we know we need as much traffic as possible to drive people to those fundraising initiatives and engagement initiatives. And so you gotta have that constant flow of content, which is why I highly recommend that everyone develop relationships with their alumni bloggers. There are some really amazing bloggers out there that are happy to help, and there's a great symbiotic relationship there. Okay, I'll check Twitter one last time to see if there are any questions. It does not look like there are, and so on behalf of Kathy out in Santa Clara, Ryan Catherwood coming to you from the University of Virginia. Thanks for watching this edition of Advancement Live. Do follow me on Twitter at Ryan Catherwood, connect with me on LinkedIn, and happy to continue the conversation. So thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Bye-bye.